had to fix before I could get online. Sorry for making you guys wait. Today's show is probably going to be pretty extensive and probably longer than normal. Thank you very much, Cosmic, for being here. Just I'll live out in the rocks, another bunch of awesome. Okay, so today's conversation is going to be about the burial practices of Bigfoot, because they do bury their dead. So you're going to get a chance to see some really unique information today. And unfortunately, you're going to have to deal with the fact that you're going to be looking at pictures on my computer because I can't get these two devices to talk. So let's get started. I'm going to have to scroll down. So these pictures were taken, let me think, 2020, if I remember right. Let me go to the first, if I can find it. Yeah, I'm doing this all. My computer is not letting me set up any kind of a scenario where I can make them into like a slideshow. So this particular scene that you're about to look at is the burial of a Skookum child in effigy because the body was never found. The child drowned and was washed away in a river. I'm trying to find his little effigy grass mound with the dirt clod next to it. So we can have a start. And I'm sorry, I was trying to organize things, but my phone went all goofy on me, and that's kind of put me out of the loop for showing you guys these things in the order I wanted to present them. Where in the heck? I might have to flip through these in order to find that. Because I went back in 3 different days in a row documenting this area so I could capture everything that was going on in it. So yeah, there's a lot of pictures in this particular group. Oh, I think I'm down to where his effigy is. Let me pop these open. Okay. Not the one I'm after. Let me try to scroll through some of this really quick. There he is. Okay. Let me go a little further. There. I think I've got 1 or 2 before that. Yep. Okay. So, let me get rid of the light. There we go. So you can actually see what's going on here. So in the event that the body cannot be found, a little grass mound is made, which is this little mound here, to indicate the individual who is no longer part of the community and cannot be located body-wise. The sticks laying on this mound are all of the direct family members that mourn this individual's loss. So it'd be the mother, the father, and the daughters and sons, these siblings of the child. So this particular child had a mother and a father and at least 2 siblings, because there's a little tiny stick there. I don't know, maybe 3, stick and a stick. 2 or 3 babies, and this child was likely very young, that was lost. No, wrong direction in my files. So away from the mound, which is here, there was also a dirt clod and some tools. Let me see if I've got the close-up of the dirt clod in relation. There's some bones and stuff in here too, and I will go through and do some more detailed explanation of these. There's the dirt clod, and dirt clod is right here. The baby's mound is here. Okay, so the dirt clod means that they have returned to mother. Now let me back up. These are not in sequence, so I'm going to have to show these to you kind of how I took pictures of them. I believe this one is of some of the bones. So when a child is lost, there are certain bones that are laid out. This is a knuckle bone. Now these bones were actually taken, they took from a local farmer who happened to butcher his own cows. It looks like they took these bones for this burial from his pile of, leftover meat processing. So you're going to have cow bones. Normally this would be a deer or an elk, depending on the tribal custom. Sometimes it'd be moose. It depends. But this group, these are Skookum people. They took advantage of a local area where they could pick up meat on bone to do their ceremony and have the feast for the child. Okay. Let me get back out of here. All right. So one of the things that they will do as part of the ceremony is that the bones are sculpted into all of the tools that the child will not have a chance to use during life because they've passed before their time. Now this is a drinking straw made out of femur bone. The end of it is bitten off but is not drilled. And the reason why they don't drill the effigy, because this would be considered an effigy, it's a symbol of something the child will not experience or have as a tool or an item. They don't put a drinking hole into it because the child will never drink from it in any way. It's meant to symbolize what's been lost. The life, sustenance of water will not be given to this individual. And the detail on these, some of these bones, you can see the tooth marks where they bit them, and you can tell it's, 3, 2, 1. You can see tool marks where it's been carved with something incredibly sharp, likely a glass knife. Certain ceremonies, mourning ceremonies, ritual killings, if you have entered a holy area, are done with glass knives. Or, items will be sharpened with glass knives because obsidian is considered a gift from the Creator and is very special to them. That's why they don't use it for their primary tools. They use it as ceremonial tools. Different angles of the same bone are showing that it's not got the drilled out area. Sometimes these pieces will be made in wood. This particular group makes theirs in bone. And then top view of the same item. So you have an idea of what it looks like on all sides. And the placement. So there was a rib bone laid between the child's body in effigy and the drinking straw, saying they will never have this. The triangle of grass represents the hope of a rebirth, a reincarnation. Mother will have another child to replace the one that is lost. And I included this picture because it clearly shows a pair of rump prints sitting side by side. It's where the parents mourned. The child's effigy is over here. On a close examination, you'll find that there are some other twists and things that were done in the grass to represent mourning. Okay, another unique item is this little guy down here. Let me see if I can get this to scroll up. I do have a better picture of this particular item somewhere in this file. I've got to find it, but I can show you at least the top view of this particular item. Also in bone. So this is the, let me think, knee bone area of the cow, lower leg bone, or no, femur bone, excuse me. This is made from the upper part of the bone. My bad. So it's from the knee up to the shoulder. This bone here has this little joint area where the tendons go through, connecting the leg together. That is used in an area for a thumb, and the front side of it will be hollowed out. The first meal given to an infant that is not mother's milk is the heated bone marrow from the knuckle bone of an animal. So they'll crack the bone, heat it till everything liquefies inside. Then they break the bone and give the child the most nutrient-rich part of the marrow. And that's what this is. Later, this particular bone will be carved, adorned, and be used to give the child broth when it is ill, medications, etc. It's sort of like a medicinal sippy cup. Again, something the child will never experience, so it's left. Here's his body. Here's the sippy cup. Effigy, a partition. Not going to have these things. Oh, wait a minute. Going the wrong way. And then comes the mourning. This particular area, you can see where the mother twisted her hand repeatedly here in a circle, representing the mourning, the loss of the child. All right, I'm going to have to back out of this so I can figure out where I'm at, because the next things I need to show you are the prayers, because there are also a whole bunch of prayers that they lay out in bones. They're kana. Yep, I think they're lower. Sorry for the distraction, guys. Here's the start of that. Okay, so the next thing that you will typically find is a broken... Come on, you turkey. You're not going to let me do it there. All right, you're going to let me do it there? Thank you. All right, you'll find a broken vertebra. The reason why this vertebra is chipped is because they turned it into a tool. This tool is used to skin the ceremonial animal that is given in reverence to the spirit of the departed child. The animal that is taken by a special individual, what you call a Deer Society person, in the event that they are Deer Society members. It is collected specifically for the passage of the child, and that meal is shared by the direct family members of that child. This one still has the animal's hair on it, deer hair, from where they had used it to skin the deer or cut the hair off the deer. Bone tool, a scraper tool. Skookum use a lot of bone tools, as do bear people. And this chip is about 2 inches. This is about twice as big as the chip I found was in the image here. Okay, go the other direction. Another significant thing that you'll find wherever one of the children has passed is a burnt walnut with the outer husk partially sloughed off, meaning they'll never have the skin of life, their heart will never be here, only their memory. It's a sign that they were taken too soon as part of the reverence for their loss of presence here. A flower is also offered, usually like this one. This one's a teasel flower. Teasel sticks can be used very easily to make cloth, fabric, rope, etc. They grow 8 feet in height. All you have to do is, let them dry out a little bit, match them, and then use one of the scrapers, like the one I just received in a trade, to divide the fibers so you can spin them. This is an indication that the child that was lost was a female. One of her duties in life would have been to spin teasel and make rope, etc. So knowing what is offered for the child also tells you sometimes the gender. So those two are significant. There again is the effigy of the child, distance. And now comes the prayers. So these Tukana here, I haven't been able to completely translate them yet. I'm still working on these two. But what I have so far is this is some sort of a prayer concerning the returning of the child to Mother Earth. This symbol I know represents Earth, and I think this is an internment. But I haven't found anything yet in any kind of lexicon of imagery or old languages to delineate what this is. It's always laid out with a rib bone, so when you find it, this type of kana or kanji prayer always laid out in rib bones. I've seen it laid out in deer bones, I've seen it laid out in elk bones, and then this one with the cow bones that are cut. These are the representations of tools that may have been given to her or gifted to her in her life, bone marrow, etc. The things of life that the individual would have missed by not living longer. Other things that will be left at the ceremony site. They use dice because some of these guys like to gamble. And if you don't know what Roman dice are, this is a talus bone from the ankle of the cow. Talus bones are the connector bones that hold the ligaments, etc. in place at the joint that allows the hoof to stay in position, etc. ad nauseum. There are two of these bones per ankle, something like that. One of them is used as a dice bone. So you have to have all 4 of them off of a 4-legged animal to play a dice game. Same that the ancient Romans used to do. And I used to play dice with my adopted Guanche father. He had 4 of these things that he carried with him in a little leather bag. And we would play knuckles, as he called it. A piercing tool is often left. This one is not a cow bone. That one is a deer bone. It's an antler tip, meaning she'd also never make a tool out of any kind of stone. No ceremonial tool. Deer horn tips like this, they're sharp with a point, are used for doing fine edge napping with downward pressure. Any person who's familiar with napping will know exactly what that tool is. And our females, especially if they are medicine people, will nap fine tools. All right. Another thing that is laid out in effigy with bones is that the individual will never have a chance to trade, negotiate, play dice, have any of the experiences of life. So it's laid out this way so that they can take the experiences of life with them in this ceremony. Part of the reason why these very archaic people do this ceremony is to gift the departed with all of the elements through the use of these bones and the eating of the animal in reverence for their soul and for their being. They are giving these things in communication, like giving reverence to the being, though they could not stay here. It's still taken in essence with them. It's kind of how we mourn here in the West, but in other countries you have a big party and celebrate the departing of the soul, and you tell the stories and all the things that you've done together in remembrance of them. The cryptid people do very similar in their ways. And yes, this is in a place quite unique. So I'm going to take a pause before I go on. See any questions? Because I know I just threw a lot at you guys. Awesome, David. Welcome, everybody. All right. Looks like we're all okay with this. So, some of these next pictures are not going to be what you expect. Yes, they're more bones. They're laid out in patterns. So I do a small sequence of about 6 or 8 pictures, and then I gotta back out again and find the rest of them. Part of the ceremony is to create a representation of a cooking fire spot, but with no fire, no food. This is what you would consider giving a ghost a plate of food, so to speak. Some cultures today will set out a plate of food for a departed one, even though the person's not there. Bigfoot do a similar thing, but they put no food in it. It's just the hollow of the fire area. Once the first part of the ceremony has been done, and the spirit has had the nutrition of no life, prayers are again laid out. And this one I actually have to switch the position of because the prayer is actually that direction. It's set out with rib bones and a couple of vertebrae. More broken, cracked bone. And then we get into the bone marrow end of it. So part of what this individual will never experience is the consumption of bone marrow. So there's always a broken bone that has an open end or has a lateral crack down the bone to represent the marrow of life that they will never get to consume. And another device for feeding the elderly. Longer spout, same concept, so the person will never grow old in this life. That's how the bones were laid out. And then you'll have these sorts of patterns that are laid out. Now this, according to Jen, you've got vertebrae on both sides and a line in the middle. These are your ancestors. Your backbone is seen as your ancestor line, kind of like a braid. is to humans, the backbone for those Bigfoot that cannot grow long hair represents a similar thing. Notice that there is a generation extra on one side, meaning this one is lost. You have the ancestors from both sides, but one is going to be not there, but it's still represented in this pattern. So this pattern represents the individual lost, which are these two here. They exited the world of the living, the circle of life. Their bone is gone. There are 3 generations that have followed them, their parents, their grandparents, their great-grandparents. If they would have been born, they would have had children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren before they passed. And that's how it looks, laid out in the correct orientation. Big half circle. This also is a representation of community. You sit in a circle, half of it's gone, half your generations are gone. You don't represent the other half. Alright, so this is getting into some other stuff, and I gotta go back down, take a better look through the bottom end of these pictures, because I have a few more to show you before we can get on to a general conversation. Because I still haven't shown you the feast and the prayer for reincarnation. Oops, and I went too far. Maybe it's up. Hang on, let me flip this around. I don't want to get you guys dizzy. So how is everybody? Hope you enjoy this. Sorry I'm a little disorganized. I had a lot of stuff to deal with. Okay, wait a second. Where are you at? Ah, there we go. All right. So, I think how I want to present this. So when a young one passes and they cannot find the body, they will find an item that resembles a baby. And this one resembles a little dog man. This Skookum family may have lost a unique child within their group. Sorry, my phone is not wanting to focus. So they'll leave a little fetus-like effigy. This happens to be choke cherry root, which is something they like to use for ceremonial purposes. They use choke cherry a lot. Cedar is another thing that they use a lot. I'm going to have to back out of this, and then I have to show you their fertility tree. Because this group, when they lose a child, they pray to Mother Earth, so to speak, or the Mother Spirit, more likely. I don't think it's a functity thing so much as a rebirth thing. Where did that... Ah, here it is. This particular group comes to this cedar tree, which has a burl on it that looks like a pregnant Bigfoot female. You can see her face, her breasts, her arm behind, even the representation of little feathers have been knurled in, and the big pregnant belly with the belly button. And at close angles, she'll turn to look at you. You can see the eyes. So when they lose a child, they start putting prayers around this particular tree. This tree has been in this location for a very long time. Unless you know exactly where it is, you're not going to find it. But that is their hope for reincarnation. And another child to be born in the place of the one lost. I'm trying to think if there was anything else in here I needed to show you. I think I have... Oh, no, there is one other thing. I need to show you, which are all the marker stones and the feast site. Egads, where? There are thousands of pictures in this file, sorry. I'm only in one section of this particular research file. I have 10 more sections to this one, so there's something like 1,200 files in this particular set. Let's see. I'll just walk you back through some of these images. Break sticks, snap sticks. More bones being laid out in patterns. This one's actually a kanji that goes that direction. Strength of life. So their ceremony is quite detailed. Looks like somebody's animal pooed in the middle of that one. And yeah, the size of the bones compared to my feet. So the patterns are quite large. Alright, enough of that. You've got a little bit of a review of how much detail they'll do. Let me see if I can find their feast site. Let me turn this back around while I'm trying to look for that. That's close. Okay, here it is. So, once they've gone through the mourning process, once they have prayed for reincarnation and a new child to be born in the lost child's place, then they have a feast. That's when they cook food and make a welcoming offer for the child to come back to them. So one bone is always severely burnt and left in place. It's the knuckle bone, femur bone that would be used as a sippy cup. And always there is a trading X left for the soul to be welcomed home. There's a close-up of it. Somewhere in this area, and there's that bone burned to pieces. Somewhere in this area was also a bone flute. And I don't know if I still got pictures of that one. I might have lost the pictures of the bone flute because I'm not finding them in this file. Hopefully I just misplaced them. And then the last thing I wanted to show, where the heck are you? Was this pile of all of the attendee stones. Okay. So everybody that attended the funeral for this child, both female and male, because the ones that are undercover are women, all the mourning women. The father's stone is placed, a heart stone is always placed for the child by the father, because he's obliged now to replace this child and care for another one. So the numbers, you can count numbers here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, maybe more. The reason why the women are put in this kind of cornucopia looking grass shape, they're stones, because we all know you bed each other to make babies. This is the horn of life, the birth canal. The horn of plenty is, well, having the next generation. That's from another angle. There was also another heartstone laid in here somewhere for the child. There's a close-up of one of them. But anyway, I think you get the idea. They've got quite a level of ceremony when it comes to burying their dead or letting go of an individual. In the case of an adult, the adult body would have been mounded over, or even in the event that this child had been found, the body would have been just mounded over. The first thing that they will do after an individual has passed, other than the mounding, is I'll put a straw, like a grass straw, in the corner of the individual's mouth, and they only put about 3-4 inches of soil over the individual. In case they're not dead and they wake up, they can breathe, they aren't going to panic, and there isn't enough material on them to hold them down so they can sit up. So that's something that's commonly done until they are sure that the individual has passed. After the third day, if the individual has not risen from the ground in resurrection, ha ha ha, I'm just making a bad joke, the individual will be considered passed, gone to the next world. So the straw will be removed, more material will be added to the mound, another 4 inches usually. So there are only 6-8 inches of soil over the top of them, all over their body. And they are laid, if they aren't, because they normally sleep on their side in fetal position. If they don't die in that position, they'll be laid in the fetal position like other indigenous native burials under mounds have been for generations. And then they'll mound them over in the fetal position because that's the shape of a fetus. You are in a fetal position when you're created. So to go back to creation and hope to come back, they are buried in that same position. They also sleep in that same position, typically on their left side to keep their heart well functioning, so it doesn't have to overwork at night. After the straw is removed and more soil is added, then a ceremony like this would be conducted. Flowers and flower petals would be left on the grave, because they'll leave them on top, usually near the head or shoulder of the individual. I've even seen multiple bouquets laid over the top of a buried individual and flower petals sprinkled all around the edge of the burial mound. So there is quite a bit of detail that they go into in the reverence of their dead. That's nothing that a monkey does. It's nothing that a greater ape does. So, my opinion remains that they are an archaic human being of some kind. Mind you, a lot of what I just showed you, if you have an archaeological understanding of Neanderthal behaviors, are incredibly reminiscent of a lot of Neanderthal behaviors that we've already been able to document. At least so far. Alrighty. So I hope that's been informative. I'm going to go turn the light on. And feel free to ask questions. The only other little thing I think I might talk a little bit about is hunting and hunting magic. And deer societies, bear societies, stuff like that. And what I'm hoping to do with my new list. I just put up the information on the Wachasa giants and a map of the regions, the territories that they used to live in. They were forced underground by settlers, actually, after the 1830s. Some of them were forced underground and shot before that, but many more were killed. That's why they don't talk to us anymore, and why they stay completely underground and completely away from us. They don't trust us, and I don't blame them. So they utilize ancient cave systems, as do some of the other giants, and my maps is going to get larger. I'm going to be adding all kinds of cryptids to it. A lot of them are cryptids I haven't even talked about yet. So you're going to have probably 30 or 40 detailed maps of known territories, regions, etc. that I'm aware of, that my native grandmother taught me about. So my history doesn't just include how to track these things, identified their grounds for. It also tells me when I've stepped into the wrong area, like the Dyatlov Pass problem. I'm going to get into that in just a second. So culturally, they're not animals. I'm going to start breaking open the rest of my pictures. You're going to see a lot more of the things from my past documentation of cryptids. Going to give you a lot more information about their known history, their ethics, morals, their laws, customs, social expectations. We're going to get into more nitty-gritty than you've experienced yet. Hope you're ready, guys. Yes, they are incredibly intelligent. And I'm not kidding when I say they have first and last names. They speak their own language, can learn ours. I'm not kidding. They have to be some sort of an archaic humanoid. They're, in my mind, seeing evidence like this suggests to me there is no other possible answer, especially if you take account of some of the anthropological evidence we have already found about pre-modern man and some of their behaviors. These guys are doing the same stuff that we found in ancient campsites. Now that would be a scientific comparison if anybody bothered to recognize that they existed. Because this sort of behavior is linkable to known archaeological evidence, as are their footprints that have been petrified in rock. If you scanned those footprints and you scanned mud prints of them walking today, you're going to be able to figure out what they are pretty quickly, especially if you make up any kind of a 3D mapping of them. I'm pretty sure we'll either find some Australopithecus or Homo habilis or cousin species just by the foot structure alone. It would suggest that they are part of us, part of our ancestral way of coming into creation. So anyway, got any questions before I go on to the next one, which will be a little bit of information about what I think potentially may have happened at the Dyatlov Pass. Now that I finally got a picture, I got to see a picture that makes sense to me about that incident. You know, I've seen pictures of the Bigfoot standing in the tree line. Okay, yeah, well, duh, they're going to be everywhere. Doesn't really make a connection for me. Doesn't really set in anything that would suggest that, oh, it could be them. But the picture from Ninja Dave 170's channel of the Dyatlov Pass teepee structure with the moose horn in it tells me everything I need to know. That, as I've already described in my post section when putting up the photo, and I'm so glad he posted that. Please go check out his channel. He's got some excellent, excellent photography up of structures. And he had this one historic picture. Thank goodness. So I know what this structure means, and I have a real reasonable suspicion as to why they got killed. So let me answer questions first, and then we'll get into this stuff over here. Yeah, they are people. And that's anybody who really wants to prove them, start digging into the anthropological record, start comparing your grounds for, your hard grounds for that is unusual, with what has been found in Neanderthal sites, Cro-Magnon sites, Homo erectus sites, anything that's got a lot of physical evidence in it that's very archaic. You'll start seeing patterns here that replicate what the Bigfoot are doing. Ad nauseum, it's back and forth, it's the same shit. Pardon my French. Yes, they're very, very much like us. You're welcome. Yeah, I'm going to be putting up a lot more information like this. I'm going to be adding a lot more detail because I'm realizing that our DNA science and the level of research that is out there currently is not going to reveal much about these people because most of the mentality out there is going in the wrong direction, in my opinion. Just my opinion. The other is they're not supporting their evidence with anything that they can connect it to. They're trying to proof new fields of concepts. I'm more down to earth than that. I'd rather go look at our own archaeological bone record and our own past human evidence and see if these guys fit into it. And the more you look at them, the more detailed you get. You know, they grind pigments, they make tools, they do all the same things that ancient humans did. We need to look at this as a more potential perspective. Okay, Dave. David, if they are only shallow buried, aren't the bodies quickly predated by predators? Nope. I have, in my life, seen 3 burials. One is the aborted fetus that Jen lost. That thing has been buried in the same location since I was 9 years old. 9 years old. Nothing's ever touched that little body, and it's less than a foot underground, maybe a foot. It's buried at the base of a tree between a pair of roots. I dug it up. Let's see, it was buried in 72, 73. I dug it up in, I want to say 86 after my grandmother died to check on it. Nothing had touched it. Everything was exactly where it had been laid. Not a single thing had pulled even a bone out of the ground. It could have, didn't. At that point, I covered the bones with plastic in order to preserve them a little better because I didn't want them eroding away too quickly. I'm hoping they will mineralize a bit. And I covered the back over. Unfortunately, my family lost control of the property, and now that little body is in somebody's backyard. But that tree is still there. The base of it hasn't been disturbed. It's likely that nobody's planted any bulbs because there's no flowers under it or around that tree, so they're not going to find it. And if they do find it, they're going to think it's a weird raccoon with long, peculiar dog legs, if they notice at all. The female that I spoke with and learned from a medicine female that got shot by the Parks District because somebody saw us together. That's the other danger, doing research with these things and documenting them. Sometimes the Parks Districts will just go in and kill them because they don't care. And they don't want them around human beings, and they don't want human beings realizing that archaic man hasn't all died out. Because then they have to answer for all of the abuse that they have done to these people for generations. You know, legally, by definition, if they have chromosome human DNA linkage 2, they're automatically human. The fact that they can interbreed with us, they're human. They're just archaic. It means they have the protection of the law. But we don't look at things that way yet. We still see through the lens of our own discriminations. Anyway, her body, I checked on it. She was shot in, God, around the same time I checked on the baby, around 86, I think. I checked on her body in 93. Nothing had predated it. The mound had started to collapse. I could see into her collapsed rib cage. It looked like something had maybe dug her guts out, but it hadn't been noticeable before that. I think it was primarily just because the bugs finally got enough of the material out of the body frame that the body frame started collapsing, and that collapse opened up that, or a porcupine got in there. Because porcupines will chew on their bones, but they'll chew on their bones years and years after they're buried. Occasionally, I will find a Bigfoot rib bone that a porcupine has chewed on. They're the only predator I have found so far that predates their body, are porcupines, and they don't do it when they're fresh. Her body was removed, let me think, 5, 6 years ago now. Parks District finally found her and took the body out. Hid it. The other individual that I'm aware of is up in Washington. It's out in the deep woods. No way anybody's going to find that guy. Last time I checked, I found him originally in 2010. I went back and checked in 2018 when I was up there, briefly. The body hadn't been disturbed at all. The mound hadn't been disturbed. No predators had gotten into it. I think they're scent glands, because they do have scent glands. Karma, you are such a loudmouth. Hey. What? Somebody too close to your mama? Stop it, you brat. Hush. Karma! What do you gotta do? Give you a hug? My god, dog. So anyway, I don't think anything really predates them. At least I've never seen that in the few bodies that I found that were buried. And in a sense, all three of them I witnessed the burial of to some degree. Because the old male that is up in Washington, he died of lung consumption. He had some sort of an infection in his lungs. I had been bringing him mosses to help him with his lichens, to help lungwort, to help him with his congested lungs. The last delivery of lungwort to him is when I discovered he had been mounded over. He had died and his family group had mounded him over. So I left my offering, of course, and then I placed flowers for him and said my prayers for him. So his family knew that I understood and that I understood their ways. Because if I would have come and not given him prayer, I would have been seen as disrespectful. Alrighty. Yeah, Dyatlov Pass. Yeah, I've been wondering about that one too, and I finally think I might have a potential reason why there was the things that happened there the way they did. Okay, I wonder if Phil and 7411 are scenario as Dyatlov. I don't know as they understand enough about the behaviors of these creatures. And then part of what's going to happen with my maps project, so I'm also going to be getting into the types of behaviors that are being mistaken out there, that are very dangerous to mistake, because some of the ground spore belongs to creatures that are far larger and far more dangerous than Bigfoot or any other cryptid, because there are still some really archaic historic animals left. Like, we still have an American T-Rex around here. Anyway, I'll be adding a lot more detail, guys. Okay, they do. Do they protect portals? Not that I'm aware of. They may live in some cliff areas, stone areas, and spaces where portals have been known to be. but the ones that I've been around, like Guanch, and the Bigfoot I've spoken to directly, don't talk about going through portals. They don't talk about using portals or having any kind of awareness of portals. They do understand the underground tunnel systems and the lava vent tubes that they can go into and the cave systems that other cryptids live in. But I, no, I don't see that in their culture. I could be wrong. Probably something I don't know. But I haven't seen anything like that yet. The truth is all new. New noise is just noise, yes. Very true. Cosmic, some places have heavy boundaries on top of the barrier. Yes, they do. And disturbing, trying to dig up their dead is seen as black magic and grave robbing. They think you are trying to steal their individual's soul or call them back to animate them like a zombie, like them into a Wendigo. They won't let you dig them up. You have to have permission. So if you do find a burial like that, the best thing to do would be a dirt core sample. Take a hollow tube, shove it into the ground, take that tube of dirt home, and if you happen to have an eDNA kit, you know, ecological DNA kit, the same DNA kits that park ranger services use, I think you can buy one for like 35 bucks offline. If you buy the more expensive, which runs around $125 to $200 for the test kit, that higher price test kit, you don't have to pay for the secondary processing of the eDNA. The kits are completely contained, everything you need in the kit, stabilizers, uh, etc., proper handling, gloves, everything is in the kit. You just take your sample, you put it in your jar, you add your fixatives, you add your preservatives, and your binders so that you don't lose your DNA telomeres and that sort of thing out of it. You send that sample to Australia to the lab. 10 days later, you get the printout. You can mark on your paperwork when you send it in unknown specimen, and they will send you back their best information because it's all auto run. The only time the tests are examined by a human is to see that it's been performed correctly and that the readings have come out within the standard specs of the software in the automatic DNA processing machines. Mind you, you can buy one of those machines for your house. There's a desktop variety that is $4,000 to $6,000, and then all you have to do is buy a 100 test kit DNA blank set, and you can process your own DNA at home as long as you've got the software looking for unknowns, meaning they'll do cross-reference on known DNA to best pinpoint what location of creature, if it's part of the primate family, human family, bird, etc. With their unknown, they can say, well, it's 90% chimpanzee. Or, they'll give you basically a blood quantum genetic analysis of what they think that creature's DNA falls within. And then, from what I understand, those testing companies that do that sort of thing, there are only two, I think, that offer to the general public at this point, are very good because it's the same labs that our park rangers use. Why would it not be reliable? And they offer kits for scat, um, dirt, water, air sampling. So you can get all kinds of specified kits, and if you get the more expensive variety, you get the free analysis and the genetic feedback sent to you in paper form, completely outlined, so you can read it online, show it to your friends, keep it in your records, whatever the heck you want to do with it. So, let's get on to the Dyatlov Pass thing if there are no other questions. What do I know about Dogman? Okay, wait a minute. Okay, places, boundaries. Heavy borders atop of a burial, cosmic that can't be easily moved by average human. I haven't seen that. The only times I've seen stacked stones that are massive, although there might be areas where they do stack stones over their departed. There's also some suggestion that some of them go up with them and put them in treetops. Native lore said that some buried aerially and some buried them under the ground. Dogmen might do air burials, according to lore. I don't know, I've not found one yet, so I can't confirm that. Yeah, a lot of what goes on. Um, in my mind, when I'm looking at the ground floor and trying to figure out how to explain things to people, yeah, I'm constantly wrestling with the tragic side of where and how these people have to live, because they have to hide. They have to be secluded. They're mistaken as animals. They're shot at all the time like they are nothing. Because they're a mythological beast that's dangerous, is going to rip you apart. That's another reason why I'm doing this maps thing, and why I'm going to get into a lot of the historic animals and their hunting tactics and what their predation looks like. Because that will help clarify that a portion of the 411 are definitely not Bigfoot. And they are probably historic animals taking those people. At least some of them. And the ground spore will be able to show that. I know that dogmen here are mostly friendly until you get above the 1200-foot level. And you get the dogmen that are 12 feet tall. They'll eat you. And we don't have a lot of them here. Thank God. But we have at least two groups within, a 100-mile radius of where I live currently, so they are a problem, potentially. Because one walks through the neighborhood, and the other one's way out in the woods. Him I'm not so worried about. The one walking through town seems to go after the Skookum people instead of humans. Thankfully they don't go after us, but in the past they've been known to. Okay, Bobby, I don't know who you are, and probably we never meet each other, but I wish the best to your life. Thank you. Okay, synthetic nature. They don't stack stones. They get 3, 4 males to push one really, really big boulder on top of the burial site. Oh, interesting. That is a possibility. They don't do that here, but I know that some of the northern Bigfoot do that, especially the Druga, the ones that have fangs. They were said to roll or place several ton stones on top of their burial sites. This has been seen by First Nations. Yep, up in British Columbia. I There's native lore that talks about it being in the habit in the Okanagan area too. So yeah, you will find that sort of thing. But that's that particular species of cryptids' ceremonial behavior, not common, and they're bigger. So, like I have said, there are roughly between 200 and 240 hairy humanoid species out there, according to my native grandmother's lore. There are also a couple of dozen historic animals that are still alive that have survived past calamities, like the Younger Dryas event. Didn't wipe everything out, because some of them lived in ways we didn't realize they lived in. Like the T-Rex. He lives underground primarily. And he's an excellent swimmer. And he's an ambush hunter. So when you find sites where, oh, you find a leg, a head, and something tossed up in the tree and parts everywhere, but you can't find the main body, it's because he took a bite, shook off the rest, continued walking. They don't eat the scraps. They just take the bite initially, and whatever comes into their mouth, they can swallow. The rest of it falls to either side of them as they walk away. And those guys' heads are the size of a VW bug. Because I've been really way too close to one once. And I don't ever want to do that again. Ever. It's way too goddamn close. Okay, they don't stack bones. Okay, gotcha. Those aren't stacked bones, by the way. Those are kana and kanji. Those are pieces of language laid out on the ground. The bones are set up as prayers, synthetic. They're not stacked like a pyramid. Those bones have specific meanings as part of their religious behavior. They also have specific meanings when you're looking into linguistics within the Asian language groups, because those kanji are in our language forms. Keep that in mind. One of the things you're going to have to get out of your heads is the whole concept of immigration and migration. Yes, a lot of that happened. However, every culture started and grew up essentially in the area that they are in. Yes, we've had later migrations, especially after the Younger Dryas event and some of the events previously to that. We've had to move out of areas because of volcanics, because of earthquakes, because of asteroid hits, etc. We've been displaced around this planet multiple times throughout history in different time periods. That's more of what your immigration and migration around the world has been, not so much the out of Africa and they're going to go everywhere. That's happened both directions. America and Indians immigrated to Asia. We took our language and whatnot with us, not the other way around. And we did that further back in history than the latest Asians coming here 1100 years ago. We've got a presumed assumption of history without digging deep enough. We don't have enough information. And modern science and biology don't pay attention to lore. They don't take indigenous people's word for what they have lived around or where they've lived for thousands of years, because indigenous people are seen as campfire mentality. Oh, those are just storybook stories. That's just what they tell their children to keep them from going out at night. No. We shared our living lore in order to survive living next to some of these incredibly powerful people that can kill you like that, that can rip you apart, pop your head like a pimple. You got to understand their culture. You have to know what not to do around them in order to live. That's why it's important. Anyway, enough of that. Let me finish answering this, then we'll get on to the dot lot stuff. First time turning for your live. Hey, Blue. Good to see you. Was a T-Rex you saw? Feathered. I only got to see his head and the side of his body. He was... At the time I was underwater, I was swimming. I was swimming in the ocean. He came up out of a volcanic vent tube from below the seabed, and I was at a bay area. So I was pushed over by the displacement of the water when he went by. Saw the side of his face, this side. He had iguana-looking scales, but that iguana skin look, scales but in the skin, not scales like a snake, but iguana look to his face, the permanent big teeth. Oh my God. And he blinked. He was kind of rusty. Down the center of his body, it was kind of rusty brown looking. But he looked really dark on top and lighter underneath. Because I remember seeing his head. I was displaced in the water. I turned and looked, saw him blink, saw his mouth, saw his little tiny front legs, and the side of his body, and then his tail dang near smacked me. I was displaced in the water again about 6 feet when his tail went by. So he was doing this like a snake swimming in the water. So his tail, using the dog's way, head, saw the side of his head. So he was swimming in the water this way and the tail flipped as he went by me. Like he was trying to slap me out of the water like an alligator will do. They'll thrash with their tail, break your leg. So some of the ground sport that you're finding when you're finding all the downed trees. If you find, usually it's never more than 60, 80 feet from what I can tell. Sometimes it'll be a little longer, but about 60, 80 feet is their ambush distance. And you'll find 3 or 4 trees that are knocked down either in a row or kind of cattywampus back and forth. And then you're going to find on the exterior of that main channel of trees that have been knocked down, which they walk on. It's part of why you hardly find a track of those guys. They favor hard ground and they will knock trees down to hide their tracks, especially when they're ambushing. You'll also find usually 4 to 6 broken trees. They'll lay on either side of that main channel of trees that are in a line or just slightly a kilt to each other, and they will be broken off at 3 foot, 4 foot, and 5 foot level, typically. That is the T-Rex charging forward after sitting quietly waiting for prey to come by, charging forward, and as he dips down to grab his prey, the tail goes from breaking the trees at a 5 foot level to a 4 foot level to a 3 foot level. By then he's grabbed the deer. Then he stands up, his tail straightens out, he takes a bite or two. Parts are left when he shakes his head on the ground, flung in trees, and then he happily walks the heck away. So if you're finding that kind of ground sport, it's not Bigfoot. And be really, really careful. Please. Because they primarily live underground in volcanic tubes and burrows that they dig out. They act a lot like, I don't even know how to describe them, because they also connect those channels to underground water channels. You know, they swim a lot. And they're ambush hunters while they swim too. So they're still, you know, back and forth. And they can hold their breath for about 20 minutes underwater before they have to come up and get air. They don't ever let their heads come up. If they do let their heads come up, it's very low profile. They will come up nose first, and they'll do the gator thing or the crocodile thing. They'll just put their nostrils above the surface of the water. They'll take a couple of breaths real deep, and then you just see a big circle where they sink back down in the kind of a wave of 2 or 3 wave patterns as their tail propels them forward. But typically, you don't see their head, just the tip of their nose and their nostrils. I have seen a couple of footages, though, where I swear to God I saw the top of a T-Rex head. They're very flat on top of their heads, as you can tell from the old skeletal skulls. So anyway, they swim, and they still go back and forth between terrestrial, ground and underwater, and they go through tube systems, vent systems underneath the ground. They'll they'll nest and forage 30, 40, 100 miles inland, excuse me, and they go through their tunnel systems to get there, their burrows. Uh, but they also like to hunt fish, and they forage fish. They go out and go after anything that's bite-sized. They like shark meat too, from what I understand. So when you find those big-ass sharks that are bit in half and you can't figure out why or what happened to them, and they've got a rounded tooth mark to the wound, it's not another shark that's taken that thing out. It's probably a big T. All right, let's get on to the Dyatlov stuff. So, if you have not seen my post section, I advise that you go over to my post section. My post section is, you have to scroll all the way to the right. It's after playlists. It'll say posts. In there, I put up a picture, borrowed off another person's site. Please go check their site out. Again, that individual's channel, excuse me, is named Ninja David 1970. So he put up a historic photo. I have seen one such photo, very similar, in my father's collection of photos. So my grandparents and my father, when they trapped, they always photographed everything. They documented uh, every animal that they hunted, trapped, etc., in photographic records and notebooks. So when my grandmother chose to push too far north in the Okanagan, she pushed not only into hunting territories, she also pushed straight into a ritual site. Now, my father showed me a series of about half a dozen pictures when I was a child, after my grandfather died. And it was of a teepee type structure. It had a very similar look to the Dyatlov Pass structure with the moose horns in it, except the structure that he had pictures of had a few different characteristics. It had oak horns instead of moose horns in it, and it was a full rack, hung downward. The top of the skull had been broken to remove the horns, and they were facing downward in the top of the teepee structure. He also showed there was a front leg in his picture that was hanging in the top of the teepee structure, and part of the hide of the animal was across the top of the poles. There were also strewn bones around the edge and underneath the teepee structure that was in his pictures. I've seen these teepee structures myself more than once. I did make the mistake when I was up in Washington of making the same mistake that Expedition Bigfoot did. And I walked straight into a Gugways ritual hunting spot. That individual followed me out. I found that spot near dusk. I remained way too long and I almost got eaten that night. And I go back to that area armed now. I take a buddy with me that's an expert marksman because I don't normally pack. Could probably outshoot him, but hey, if he goes down, I'm taking it. So anyway, there are certain sites that are incredibly dangerous to go into, and I think that is what has happened, or what potentially happened at the Dyatlov thing. Now, the second structure on the bottom half of that picture is a comparative, except that's a woman's structure. So they've got birth magic and hunting magic that are both portrayed with teepee structures. The big difference is the male hunting magic always has bones, horns, a spear, hide, etc. And the ridgeline pole is set at a slightly shorter distance because men don't create life. They assist in the creation of life. Within native cultures, the woman is considered the warrior of birth. So the lower teepee structure in that picture that has the ridgeline pole extended far greater away from the central structure is representing a birth house, representing a prayers for a good birth, uh, not dying in birth, not losing your child in birth. It's usually will have medicinal plants left around it. If something is hung in it, it will be a medicinal plant, not a hide or a bone, just for clarification purposes. Michigan cryptid. The upside down trees are prayer trees. Turn them upside down. If they're not a foraging, if they are massive trees, then the tops are planted in the ground. The root structure, the root ball is, pointed skyward. The medicine people of that group or the elders of that group will climb into those root balls when they are singing prayers to the Creator. Works like a tower for them. Hey, Mike. All right. Mike, no, now would a T-Rex or whatever you're talking about be mistaken for reptilian? Potentially, if they are younger, because T-Rexes take, 30 to 35 years for their bones to harden. From what I understand, the majority of the, according to my grandmother, a majority of the surviving species of pterodactyls, etc., T-Rexes, all of those old, more reptilian things, the reason why they survived the last issue that we had planetarily, the Younger Dryas event, was because they dwelled underground or in caves. And the ones that survived were the ones that were underground during the time of the barrage. Everything on the surface died. Those things that could still hunt in the water and take refuge underground, not come above ground where it was far too dusty, they were able to survive. They're all born from eggs, as far as I know. Okay? So they develop from a small size to a large size, but they don't develop like a chick or a modern bird. Modern bird is up and a fledgling and going in 6-8 months. They're an adult in a year and reproducing. Not so for the dinosaurs. The dinos that are left, their average life expectancy is 70 to 90 years. Some of them live longer than that. And it takes 30 to 35 years for them to grow to adulthood. So they have a very slow growth period. They'll be a little guy for 10 years before they get to, being a young adult teenager, before they become a young adult. They go through these 10-year sequences, and their bones aren't hard yet. Their bones are still flexible. A lot of them pass when they're younger because they suffer breakage in a bone, and then they get an infection. They don't make it to adulthood. That's why they can't replenish quickly. But anyway, so it takes 30, 35 years for their bones to get hard. After their bones are hard, that's when they can ground forage and bust down trees. Before that, they will rely on stealth, cover, sneaking. They'll act very intelligently. Oh my They're way, they're way fucking scary. I've been stalked by one something, and I couldn't tell if it was a baby T-Rex, because it looked very similar to the big daddy I saw that dang near ate me, except he was the wrong color. That could be due to, colorization, camouflage as a child. Some things will have a different colorization, like deer will have speckles and, different color hair, etc., before they become adult. So what stalked me may have very well been a baby T, but he was about my size, so it had been 10 or 12 years of age. But he looked a lot like an upright walking. That I'm sorry. He still looked like an iguana. That side facial structure, and the reason why I'm having to go a little bit is because I saw this thing from like not much past arm distance, about to where my about 6 foot, not even. I mean, he was right there. So the scaling pattern matched, but the color tone didn't. Might have been camouflage, Young ones might retain a more green coloring before they get the minerals in their body to turn darker. It's, a good way of hiding and keeping you from getting predators or noticed. Anyway, okay. There are a few pics online of horned dog-like face, Okanagan like a kasha. In Prediction, BC, have you seen? Heard is large. No, I have not seen that, Phil. If you have a chance to post a link in a comment section somewhere for me, I would love to take a look at that. Okay, Phil, I wonder if the T-Rexes are telepathic. My grandmother claimed that some of them were that smart. In fact, she claimed that some of the archaic animals that survived because they could communicate and warn each other with their minds. Oh yeah, I was almost a T-Rex snack. Took me a while before I went swimming back in that spot. But I still swim there. I love that particular bay. But I know where my zone is, where not to go. Okay, thank you for being willing to reveal these events in order to help others. I think, yeah, why thank you, Mike. I figure I don't want to lose this lore. I know that my grandmother's lore and her understanding of what lives around us was far more detailed than anything that anybody else has been able to preserve. And I don't want it to be lost. I don't want people to make mistakes out there in the woods when they're avoidable if you understand the behaviors. Uh, so my biggest hope is that not only does this information get preserved and carries on and people utilize it, it also hopefully might help researchers delineate what's out there. And, when we find places where there are T-Rexes, let's just not have any freaking dang hiking trails there, please. When we know that there's a, school of plesiosaurs that like to forage and mate in a particular area, don't swim there. You'll die. Because they hunt with some sort of a sonar or something that shuts your nervous system off, and it shuts the animal's nervous system off like you're shutting a light bulb. You're flipping a switch on the wall. You're alive, you're conscious. They send out their, infrasound, ultrasound, whatever they're using, and then boom, you're lights out, gone. You don't even know you're dead. You die so quick. You die in like a third of a second. You're just gone. Thankfully, you don't feel any pain. But if you're too large and you're in that blast zone, they aren't going to eat you, but you will be gone because they eat fish and they'll kill a whole school and then nibble the school up. But if you happen to be within 15, 20 feet, you're a dead duck too. And it's avoidable because those nesting grounds where they forage and live, you don't have to dive there. You can avoid that area and secure your safety. They don't need to be poisoned out. They don't need to be killed out. We just have to be more aware of what we live around and the safe distances and what not to do in certain circumstances. Okay. I'm hoping to teach you guys everything my grandmother gave me because I can't afford to hold back. Science isn't catching enough or as quickly as we're expanding into their territories. And before somebody puts them all on the kill list instead of the keep list, we got to figure this out. And we have to be able to share this knowledge. We have to be able to share this understanding. And with me being able to present this, especially to researchers, people that are out there, they can confirm some of this ground support. They can confirm some of these sites, and they can start questioning some of the dynamics that are being put out. They can bring more reason and clarity to what's going on out here. Because it's not going to change or stop. We just need to be more aware. Okay, I have heard their mind chatter, etc. Okay, all right, let's get on to the Dyatlov stuff real quick here before I run out of battery space. So, in the teepee structure, I do have some notes here. We'll just back this up so you can see the whole page. Let everything focus for a second. All right, so the differences between hunting magic and fertility magic, birth magic. And this magic is a relative term. They aren't out there casting spells, doing the oogie boogie or any of that. This is what you would consider survival. When archaic people have to rely on subsistence foraging and hunting, magic or the concept of replenishment become vital mechanism within the spiritual life of people in order to survive. So this is the ridgeline pole, carries off on the side of the picture about like so. The ridgeline pole on the second picture in the post section carries much further out and away, so represent the length of life a woman's body can give. It can give you many generations to come. A father can only feed you for so long before he dies. That's why his ridgeline pole goes into the ground closer to the teepee structure and why the mother's goes into the ground further away from the structure. It's a literal representation of life carrying forward. So when you come across a structure like this, it will have the horns of whatever society or the skull. If these people primarily hunted bear, there would be a bear skull in the top of this teepee structure and part of its pelt hung over the poles. Okay, the one at Dyatlov had a pair of moose horns because it looks like there too. It looks like the skull was probably cracked at the back and the horns were hung. It looked like part of the moose's hide was also across the top of the structure. And I believe there was a leg bone with a hoof in here. Additionally, there was a low set pole that goes counter through the structure. It's unusual, doesn't fit in. That is because this represents the sphere. So with persistence hunting, you run your prey down, or you face your prey, you make your prey charge you. If the prey charges you, males always get territorial. You wear their horns to make them fight you. Then you plant the spear tip, put the arch of your foot on it, just like the movie, from 13th Warrior, and you bring the spear up so that the animal spears itself through the heart. That's what that spear represents. One of the structures like this that I had, it was an old structure. It had been burnt, sort of. Part of it had been burnt. It was the edge of a forest fire. It was a site that my mother took me to because rangers told her about it. And when we went up to investigate it, that was a call made to my grandmother, actually, when we were in California. The spear that was put in place in that particular structure had been fire scarred. This half of the structure had been burnt, and part of the top had been burnt, but the other half of the structure had been clean, like firefighters had found it at the break line, basically. They wanted a definition. They wanted to know what the structure meant. They thought it was some sort of historic Native American burial site. They called my grandmother to ask her expertise. She sent my mom and I, and we had to tell them that yes, it belonged to indigenous people, and no, we couldn't tell how old it was because they wouldn't have believed us if we told them it belonged to freaking Bigfoot. So anyway, that's the meaning of this structure. It's a reverence spot. They set out all of the elements of the hunt, the spear, the feeding of your family, the reverence and display of the animal. There'll be bones around the base of this or inside of it. Sometimes there'll be tools left, stone tools, bone tools, etc., all around these structures. Each type of society, be it deer society like my Guanche father belongs to, bear society, moose society, elk society, they are all specialized hunters that hunt game for ceremonial purposes. When a child is born, they will hunt game. When an elder passes, they will hunt the game. What they do is not part of their subsistence living, but part of their religious reverence for surviving in the world. If you cross into an area like this and you are not a member of the Moose Society of the Bigfoot, the punishment's death. Same with Deer Society, Bear Society, all of it. Ask any native the old way. If you come into an area like this, you're seen as a person coming in to steal their hunting magic, to keep them from being able to take care of their female line, to provide for their family. You're taking their hunting magic. So in order to regain their hunting magic, whoever has stumbled into the area has to be killed. Their eyes are removed because they have seen this structure. Sometimes their ears will be removed. Their tongue and mouth will be cut out because they have talked about what they've seen. Their fingers will be cut or bit off, and so will their toes, because they've walked on holy ground and they have touched holy items. So the reason for the peculiar mutilation, in part, was the ritual removal of the offending organs that saw the special sacred place. The radiation and some of the displacement of the bodies. 2 days later, Russia set off some, big boom booms close by, probably to mix this site up and maybe bury it under an avalanche to make it hide what the truth was. That's a guess. All right. So this female structure will never have any hunting magic. It will have ferns, it will have little tools, it will have wooden tools more often than bone or stone. It may have pigment in the area. It will have flowers, small herbs, bits and pieces of herbs or bark, and that will all be underneath and around this structure. This is woman's birth magic. This is man's hunting and protection magic. Both very ceremonial. You can die by entering these spots. Not so much with this one. Definitely with this one, though. So, I think part of the missing 411 issue might be people are accidentally coming into sacred ground. They're being seen as invading people that are there to steal magic. They're there to steal knowledge. And they are still being dealt with in the old customary ways of indigenous people. Even Bear Society people today will tell you that in the old days, Bear Society people were very willing to do exactly the same stuff to you that was done to the people in the Dyatlov Pass to keep their sacred magic out of your hands. So that's my take now that I've seen this photo. Having not seen this photo before made me question whether or not Bigfoot were involved or if something else was going on. But no, if they camped in the middle of a sacred site, oh yeah, they would have been eliminated and the magic returned because the ground would have to be re-sanctified. And that's my take on that. Hopefully that helps. Hopefully that makes sense. And mind you, similar stuff, like I said, has been found in Neanderthal sites. Uh, and it's in our archaeological record. We know they buried their dead. We know they wove fabrics, uh, made rope skirts, etc., tied cord knotting in their coverings the same way Native Americans did and other indigenous people to record history and family lines, etc. The behaviors match. We're not looking at monsters. We're looking at unique humans. Really archaic ones. And I think we need to include them and not hunt them like animals. Okay, Phil, every 400,000 children go missing. Every year, 400,000 children go missing. Oh, yeah. How many of them are being trafficked by human traffickers? That's the first question. Because that industry, from the books we've been able to find, is at least $6 billion a year moving humans around this planet for whatever purposes. So out of that 400,000, I'm pretty sure it's not cryptids. That's more human predation on human children for money. That's the other thing I've seen a lot of going out in the woods, unfortunately. You know, when you watch somebody pull up to a hiking trailhead in a vehicle with a child, and they walk off into the woods while you're eating your lunch, 20 minutes later they come back with no child. The man's wearing a suit, driving a Porsche. You know, if you turn the plate in, you're probably going to get shot. or you'll go missing, or you'll get trafficked. I've seen peculiar stuff like that more than once. There's a lot more human trafficking going on than there are cryptids eating humans. I'm sorry to say. And there are a lot of them in the woods. Because they go to the woods to dump the bodies. Half the time they go to the woods so they can do whatever they're going to do to the child. Doesn't matter if the child screams. Nobody's around to hear him anyway. They're too far off in the woods. It's part of what I don't like about our culture. We allow that to exist. See, in Bigfoot's culture and in indigenous people's culture, we didn't tolerate that sort of behavior. If you raped a child, and yeah, I'm going to say what's not politically correct because I don't need to modify my language according to the First Amendment, as long as I'm not inciting a riot or trying to tell you to go unalive somebody. I have every legal right to speak as I choose. So I'm keeping as many words in my vocabulary as I can. Anyway, those are my thoughts. If you got questions, let's talk. So it just, we tolerate too much. And we don't come together enough in our overall society these days. We're far too compartmentalized and we are far too idealized and rooting for one team or another on just about every topic. Yeah, at this point, these goofballs trying to create a synthetic world, replicating the mathematics of this world, calling this world's reality a matrix, they're probably going to end up uncreating themselves like they did last time with nanotechnology and AI. Hope they're happy uncreating. We'll be happy to be rid of them. Anyway, and I'm meaning that in general, as we, the population of the world, would probably be far better off without some of these people in charge of things or in control of particular corporations, etc. Okay, Phil, are cryptids sympathetic to human children? Oh yeah, Jen, growing up around her, how I remember the first time um, my eyes were glowing red because I'd been scared half to death. And when I went over to go play with her, after I'd been scared half to death, she looks at me and she goes, "Why are your eyes glowing red?" And I didn't know my eyes could do that. So I immediately ran back to my house to look at, see my reflection in the window to see that, yeah, even during the daylight, my eyes glow red. And I think I figured out potentially why that occurs. But anyway, when I came back, she gave me a hug. She sat me in her lap, kind of rocked me. So she was very sympathetic. She was very nurturing, especially for something so large compared to my little tiny scrawny body. She was like 8 foot tall at the time. And here I was just a little toothpick of a kid. No, she just kind of folded me up and rocked me and said it'd be all right. And it was the gugway that scared me half to death. He'd almost caught me that day. I'd had to go to ground. I had to crawl through the grass to get away from him that day. It scared me so dang bad. Yeah, my eyes opened. So fear is one of the things. Not anger. Sometimes fear opens their eyes. They're afraid of you. They're afraid of us and what we might do to them or their young. So that's something that a lot of people don't consider, that might also occur when there is a fear issue, not just an adrenalated, angry state or etc. It could be also fear-based, and it is. Based from personal experience, I know. Okay. Tammy, thank you. Haven't commented much, taking care of dogs, chickens, ducks, and horses. Oh, sounds like you've got a beautiful life. Uh, I love that sort of lifestyle. I wish I still had the ranch. I'd have loved to still be there in some ways. Okay, Phil, I need a book called Man. The final chapter was eye-opening even today, man. It was yep, you're right. Dis Disproportionately large consumer of people. Yeah, I know. We have a real bad history with that sort of thing. So I think why my grandmother said, yeah, we're not, we're more, we humans are more related now to the red bone people in our attitude than we are to the Sabi brothers we know. We predate each other at a higher rate than just about any other species on the planet, even to this day, through war, dissension, and we, in some places, still consume each other. Ah, thanks. Glad that you like my content, Michigan Rob, or Michigan Cryptid, excuse me, my bad. Hopefully I'll be able to present some more details and give you some more good info. And with my new equipment, hopefully I'll get some better footage. But yeah, I'm going to start digging open my different past research, and I'm going to start sharing some of those photos. And hopefully that will help clarify some of the stuff that you're seeing out there. And if I can find my other disc that's got about 4,000 pictures on it, wow, we'll be able to get into some really neat stuff because I've got some dinosaur evidence documented on that particular disc, along with some dino tracks that are about 3 foot across. That was a scary day. So there are some things that I need to teach people about how to identify these areas and some of the warning sounds. When you're hearing a big, what you hear sounds like a baseball bat hitting a tree. Let me reiterate. Jen, the day the Gugway snuck up on us, the first time the thing came onto our property, she grabbed a massive piece of alder wood, or bamwood, I think it was bamwood, 3-4 inches in diameter and about 3-4 foot long, and she smashed it, hit it hard enough it broke at the base of a poplar tree. It was a warning that a predator was very close. If you have that power knock go off 10, 20, 30 feet away from you, you are in a predator's zone. Back the hell out. You're in danger. And a lot of it, potentially. So, when they try to warn you that way, they're trying to help you. They're trying to keep you safe. It's just you don't understand their signaling methodology and you don't know what it means. Part of it, if it's 3 knocks, it's about you. If it's a power knock, it means you're too close to a predator. You're too close to something that's going to eat you. It also is an indicator that they need to get out of there. It's also for them to take cover because, some of these groups of cryptids Not only do they still perform ancient forms of hunting magic, they also still herd animals to take care of them. There are individuals within their communities, they're part of societies that keep these things alive, maintain them, watch over them, herd them, move them around. If you find a massive stick that's got a point on it, and you don't know why you've got a triangular looking spear point, it's a jabber used to move T-Rexes and other big animals like you do with an elephant and a prick stick. It's the same kind of thing. Some of them even have hooks on them. So they've got animal handlers, people who practice animal husbandry that still watch over flocks of different kinds of dinos, be they T-Rex or pterosaurs or velociraptors, because some of those guys are still alive and with us. And they do handle them. They do manage them. They raise them like farm animals in some instances. They eat their eggs. They use their meat. It's part of why some areas are heavily predated on and you can't find a deer in the area, and some areas just seem to be abundant with lap and you can't figure out what the Bigfoot are eating. It's because that particular group probably maintains some sort of historic animal that they still eat, and it's not part of our above ground ecological system. Anywho, just to give you a few clues. Okay. Michigan Cryptid, I want to help spread this knowledge. My channel is fairly new, but I'd love to interview you. I would love to do an interview with you. I am wondering if there, I've had some problems with this phone not allowing, which one of the apps? It's like duck something, StreamYard. It's got the little duck image. My camera on my phone can't activate for the interview streamed through that particular app. I have noticed there is an option in YouTube to go live together. My camera phone might actually work on the live together option. I haven't tried it yet with anybody, so I'm not 100% sure. But give me your channel info in the comments after this. I'll come subscribe, and if you've got your email up in your description box, I will contact you with my private email, because my normal channel's email is not up and running right now. And I've had to use this phone anyway for my interviews, and I can't anyway, it's a big, I have two different phones for two different accounts. My other phone is dead, and I can't get into my other email for this YouTube page right now, so I have to go through my private one. But yeah, if you give me your info, I'll definitely get a hold of you and give you mine. And any of this information that you want to download, capture, keep, please do. I don't want my materials perverted in any way. That's why I've turned a lot of the options off for sharing, because I don't want somebody to defame my work by talking BS and not giving its proper due. But if you can download it and keep it, and you understand it, and you can utilize it as research material or add it to your body of reference material, please do, because the more of this material that is kept and preserved, the less likely it will be lost. Okay. Neo, how cool. That makes complete sense. From Neo. Okay. And Tammy, I'm actually in the city. San Antonio, only 2 acres, but it's getting super cold, so I got to make sure all of the rescue dogs are in and the chickens and ducks are in the barn. Yeah, cold is a big thing in the desert. A lot of people don't understand how cold deserts can get. Okay, now Michigan, she be my top pick for you to interview. Wouldn't miss it for the world. Oh, thank you, Tammy. I appreciate that. Oh, hey, Rain Man, how you doing? Okay. Phil, if you strike a solid tree with the butt of a pole, it replicates a power knock sound. Not recommended. Yeah, right? Oh yeah, sometimes they'll become reactionary to that sort of thing too, because you just gave an alarm signal and there was no alarm. Some of them get a little angry with you over that kind of thing. Be careful of doing that. Oh yes, Joseph, Bigfoot's definitely real. I'm very aware of that since I've got 7% of their DNA in my body. I have functional Bigfoot eyes, glow just like theirs. I have extra hearing just like theirs. Used to have a voice box that worked like theirs too. Michigan cryptid. Microsoft Teams has to be authentic. Oh, that's right. Can't be. There are people though that will clip videos and they will take them out of context, and in those clips they'll make it sound like the video is about something else because they've left off either the precursor part of the conversation or the explanatory end. So there's that sort of manipulation that I'm referring to. It's that perceptual newscaster kind of crap. Okay. No, Phil, I cannot make my eyes go open at will. Jen Jed could get hers to open, and she said I had to think about it. So I don't know if my brain has the control mechanism to open my eyes, but I think I achieved that 2 years ago. I think I managed to open them intentionally. It takes a lot of concentration, and I have to work myself up to get them to open. The next time I'm freaked out and they open, though, I notice I'll definitely film them because, that'd be proof. But I think that the reason why they have the tinting is I think that there's maybe a keratin layer that allows colorization to the eye shine. Because, minerals affect that cup in the back of the eye. So it might be a particular iodine mineral or something that my body uptakes a lot. Could also be the fact that I have 44% blood iron. I'm not hemochromatosis, but I'm higher iron than even a normal man. Normal men have like a 28 to 40% iron in their blood. My family, my mother and I and my grandmother all had 44% blood iron content. And so did my brothers and sisters. So that's the difference genetically also in myself and other people. And most females only have, 28% iron in their blood. That's why a lot of females are anemic. I don't have anemia issues. ever. Oh, wow. You live in the Huron National Forest. Wow, you've got to have some interesting sounds that you hear up there. Huron area has been active for a very long time with all kinds of cryptids. You ever hear anything that sounds like a big bellowing moo? Stay away from it. It's not a Bigfoot. It's not a T-Rex. It's a ryogen. They're a big, kind of crab-looking thing. That also is hairy. And they are, again, another ambush predator. They build square top structures. So if you ever come across a structure that's looks like the beginning of an old mine, it's built by one of those things. And they're really quick at short bursts. And they don't mind eating us, unfortunately. Oh, that is something to worry about, Phil. She doesn't eat enough protein, she's going to become anorexic. You can make some of that up with vegetarian diet, but you have to start doing food combinations. Beans and rice makes one complete protein, so you always have to put your proteins together. The other is you also have to treat your rice slightly differently before you combine them with beans. You have to cook your rice, put it away in the refrigerator for 24 hours, reheat it, then add your beans. The reason is if you don't chill your rice, it will have too high sugar content in it, and it will spike your blood sugar, and it will not be a digestible starch. It goes immediately into sugar production, insulin, da da da. If you chill your rice for 24 hours and then reheat it, it is already started to break down and digest out those more undigestible toxic starches that spike your blood sugar. And when you add the beans after 24 hours, you end up with a complete protein with the appropriate balance of starches. So you have to know the dynamic of your foods in order to live without becoming anorexic on a vegetarian diet. And you are going to need some eggs and other things like that to supplement your protein anyway, and your omegas, because, you know, you gotta have fish oil. You gotta have omega-3s. You gotta have certain good cholesterols. Otherwise, you'll get too high on the sugar side, and you'll spike too high and end up giving yourself diabetes and causing some real health issues. Who was it? Let me think. The guy that used to do all the, he was a bodybuilder from the 20s, and he did all the juice commercials. He put out a bodybuilding guide how to do everything from lifting weights to Jack LaLanne. In Jack LaLanne's fitness books, he actually breaks down how to combine certain vegetables and grains, fruits, etc. together in order to give yourself a complete set of appropriate proteins for bodybuilding. You might want to find a book like that, read through it, and make a few suggestions to your granddaughter about how she could combine foods to give herself healthier options for proteins. Smudging. Okay, Michigan cryptid. Smudging and respectfully entering the forest. Help? Oh, yes. And in fact, one of my native friends from Canada, she takes tobacco with her every time. She'll smudge and she leaves them tobacco. So not inappropriate, it's actually quite appropriate. They'll see that it is a respectful way of introducing yourself and a revered way because you have left them tobacco or you've put the scent of sage in the air. Sage is considered the substance of your body. In the mind of the native person, we need sage in order for our bodies to remain healthy and alive and functioning correctly because our bodies were originally made of sage smoke by the Creator. Hello. All right. Thank you for your rice. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, any rice can be done that way. You can even do potatoes like that and help break the starch down before you eat them. Keeps you from, getting too high up on that sort of thing. You want out, baby? Ay, ay, ay. Oh, you're just begging me for more jerky, you turkey dog. I love you. All right, let me finish answering these questions. I've been at it for about 2 hours. Let me see what my battery life is like. I'm still at half battery. Awesome. So, if you guys want to hang and talk for a minute, I think I'll have another half hour, 40 minutes to do that. Okay. Phil, you seem to be healthy other than congestion. I suspect that is not an accident. No, I actually have I'm very versed in the good foods I can eat to keep myself going. I also have a tendency to graze in the field when I'm out hiking because I know which plants are good to eat. And I keep myself healthy that way. I also do, a lot of hiking, walking, swimming when I have a chance, and I do some basic exercises. Something that Jack LaLanne utilized, which was by body dynamic exercises where you use the tension and force of your own muscle against itself. That's helped me retain a lot of my muscle mass without having to do a whole lot, because you can do that sort of thing almost anywhere. Um, and I try to keep a good core strength. I've damaged my body so many times doing some extreme stuff in my life. It's a miracle I walk at this point, let alone that I'm healthy. But I do try to I don't cook my foods as much as most people do. I eat a lot of raw stuff, to be honest. I eat a lot of fruit, a lot of vegetables, meat, cheese, that sort of things. About the extent, a lot of eggs, stuff like that. I keep a lot of my food as raw and minimal as possible in cooking. Even my vegetables, I'll brown Brussels sprouts real quick in a pan, throw a little water on them to tender them up a tiny bit, set them off to the side, let them cool. Still has a bit of crunch. You don't want to ever overcook anything. The more you overcook something, the less nutritional value it has. And that's something I've always paid attention to. The other is, if you like internal organ meat, that's real good for you. Heart, liver, anything like that. It's those kinds of meats actually help your body retain the ability to produce stem cells and that sort of thing. The other is gelatin, bone gelatin, doing bone broth, making chicken soup, taking your old bones from pork chops or beef or anything like that, cracking them open and boiling them down in water and then reducing them and drinking that broth or making your soup with it. Really healthy for you. It allows you to grow new cells. It helps you maintain your bone mass, your muscle mass, and keeps your digestion malleable for just about any food source. So, and now it's being suggested that bone marrow gelatin can actually help you rebuild and regrow your bones. So maybe that's why I'm still walking with some of the incredibly eroded bones I have in my body. Like I have two bones in my body. There's 77, one's 73%, and the other one's 77% eroded. They look like cobwebs in my body. So far, thank God, they haven't collapsed. I want to think about the day that they do. Because if the one between my shoulder blades and up here in my neck goes, then I'm going to be paralyzed from the neck down. If the one in my hip bracket goes, then I'll be paralyzed from the hips down. I don't want to do either one of those, but it's an eventual possibility for me. Got damage in my back. Oh, I've been trying to stay warm here. I dropped down to 28 degrees last night, I think, or 27 degrees. It's been hanging around freezing for the last week. It'll be, high 50s during the day. It'll be nice. It'll be sunny. But with that no cloud cover, everything gets way cooler on the ground really quick. Oh, wow. Then you understand the old traditions, Michigan. Yeah, tobacco. They always seem to take tobacco. Okay, bad pups. Sabe. Also love peppermint and gifts. Yeah, oh yeah. Peppermint, peanut butter. Yeah, Karma's finally relaxing. Yeah, I'm looking at you. Everybody sees you on display, dog. What do you have to say? Uh, what flavor do giant crabs hate the most? I don't know. I don't have enough connections or knowledge about those things. Uh, there's one that lives close here. I'm still trying to capture his night calls because he makes this funny mooey sound. And I want to capture that sound. I need to go get a bullseye mic somehow. Because I'm finding out that one of the two work locations I work at night is very active, even during the day. I went last Sunday during the day to do the work out there, and it's just a few miles away, closer to the next set of hillsides. Even during the day, I was hearing cryptic calls in the hillsides around that area. So somehow I've got to figure out how to get a recorder over there. I think I'm going to start doing my final work on that building in the afternoons on Sunday. So maybe I can catch some of the day sounds of the cryptids over there. Because I was hearing hunting calls and dog calls that were way too big to be a normal dog. And the mooing sound that the raging makes occasionally as a herd over there, day or night. I want to be able to catch those sounds. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be a cryptid snack either. No, no, thank you. I would avoid that at all costs. Nice, Neo. Yeah, organ meat supplements, that works too. Yep. Liver is high in B12 and iron. Yep. Oh yeah, and bone bone marrow definitely Bone gelatin definitely helps create more stem cells. Your body needs that nutrient in order for stem cells to be nutritioned enough to grow. Okay, Michigan. There's a big tree twisted around at least 3 times, about 17 feet high. On the top is on the ground. What's this mean? It feels like a display of power. Actually, we have a marker like that here in this valley, um, Michigan. And it's not a power game. That's actually a bear man's marker. So, or maybe even a badger man's. More likely a badger man's marker. So, you got your patty type, Bigfoot that looks like a gorilla. You also have bear people that look like massive freaking bears. Their faces are bear-like in structure, though like a sun-faced bear, they've got a lighter fur tone to their heads, their faces. And we also have badger people in here. Um, badger people, they like to take a tree and twist it 2 or 3 times. They'll grab either the top of a tree and twist it, or they'll take a major limb off the side of a tree and they'll twist it like they're trying to break it off, except they twist it until it's in a complete spiral loop. And then they'll make it into a directional pointer of where they live. So it's a marker tree, and the reason why they do the twist like that is because both bear people and badger people, one, have enough strength because they're stronger than even the patty types by 2 or 3 times, from what I understand. It's also commemorative of the life cycle. Creation, birth, reincarnation. So they'll typically try to twist those branches, treetops, 3 times. Mother, father, child, or grandparent, parent, children. You know, ancestors, offspring. Same kind of thing as the meaning of a braid for Native American. It's your connection to your world and your family line. Okay. Ooh, that is a really good idea, Phil. That is a possibility. I'm going to have to experiment with that. I bet you that would work. Could use a bowl. Could even use a membrane of some sort, like, what's the one that catches sound really good? Mylar. That's a good idea. I'll have to play around with that. Okay, Michigan. That tree is 1 mile from my house. Well, the twisted tree here that was done by a badger man a few years back, sits right alongside the river and is, maybe 3 miles from my house right now. Uh, they don't mind. They don't mind where you live. They don't care where we live. Their lives go on regardless of what we do. They don't move territory. They don't move out. We move in on them, and they just adapt and go around us. You know, so cool. Tree manipulations, yeah. Bad pup. The Kushtaka in Alaska are very hostile to humans. Yes. Now, I want to ask you something about the Kushtaka. Are they the ones with the fangs that sit outside their mouths? Because I'm very curious about that factor. Because they might, if that's what the cryptid is, they might have something to do with the Hindu Durga. Uh, has very similar look to the face in statuary compared to what I've been told about some of the bigger cryptids that you guys have up there. And no, not all of these things are the same, not all of them like us, and not all of them are friendly towards us by any means. Um, bear, bear men's muzzles are shorter than a black bear. Also have front, also his front legs are same length as his back legs. I haven't gotten to see one that close yet to know the snout length, muzzle size. Thank you, Phil, for letting me know. Part of some of the next material I'm going to be presenting as either more videos or maybe in some posts. I'm going to go through some of the aerial stuff, um, baskets up in trees. I just realized I got a picture of a bed basket in a tree with a Bigfoot sitting in it where you can clearly see his outline. I totally forgot I took that picture. So I'm going to be presenting some stuff like that here real soon. And I'm still trying to get footage of the bear man in this area, the basket tree home that I know of, where they live. And their rib cage structure that they make, actually, according to lore, the reason why they make that particular tree structure pinned into the ground and bent over is because it replicates. They used to hunt mastodons, and it replicates the rib bones of the mastodon. When the mastodon died out, according to lore, those mastodon hunters started bending trees and planting the end treetop in the ground in an attempt to magically bring the mastodon back to life, bring him back to this world so that they could, go back to worshiping the way that they had and hunting the way that they had. So, there's some lore like that too that I haven't given you guys yet. So this year is going to be a lot more detail. A lot more of my old evidence I'm going to be putting up. I'm going to be adding new footage that's much clearer because of the lens setup that I have now for my phone. And hopefully you guys will have even a clearer understanding than you already have. And third year I'm going to get even more detailed than the last year and this year. We'll just keep getting more detailed until I'm out of details. Okay, one of those big plastic fruit bowl. Oh, well, that would work. Yeah, that's a good idea, Phil. I might even be able to use I might be able to grab a phone mount that I could glue into it so that I can angle my speaker and my microphone so that I can maybe get some better sound orientation bounce to it. I'll have to look at the dynamics of that. That sounds like a really good idea, though, Phil. Okay. Bad pup. I've seen a publicist use a dog bowl like thing. You put on a dog's head. I have one of those. I had to have one for Karma when she had her surgery. I can dig that out. Oh my god, that's such a good idea. Okay. Bad pup. I don't know about fangs, but can find out for you. I the Kush. I know I can probably look them up online. The Kushtaka. Because I've Some of my alien friends have told me some pretty wild stuff about some of the different kind of cryptids up there, how big they get, what they look like. Oh my God, you have a lot of really violent stuff up there that survived. We don't have as many of those kinds of things down here in the greater 48. Um, I think the research up there is going to have to be on a completely different freaking level. I think it's going to be far more dangerous to get some of the information needed for their societies up there, just because of what's up there. And I know that some of the cryptids from here do go up there, but even the cryptids that go up there, they don't go up there unless they have giantism or are not expected to stop growing. And the ones that do go up that are from the lower 48 are aware that it's a more man survival thing up there than it is here down in the lower 48 states. So even the local cryptids know it's harder to live up there. – 20 foot tall. I've had native friends tell me they get that big. That's amazing, Phil. That's just amazing. Wow, 20 foot. But then, we got some bears that look at polar bears. They're huge. And so are Kodiaks. My God. Yep. Head's the size of a V8 engine block. Oh, yeah. It's like moose. God, the rack on a moose is 6 foot across or more. Moose can stand 6 foot at the shoulder. They're huge. I remember helping dress out a 1,600-pound moose. The thing was massive. Filled up the back of a pickup truck. Okay, cool. What, doggo? You need some attention? Okay, let me finish answering questions and then we'll get out of here, okay? You want to go? You need a walk? Yeah, you need a walk? Okay. Yes, my dog talks to a certain degree, so I'm gonna have a cigarette outside. I hope you guys don't mind. Let her do her walkie. And I'm probably gonna freeze my tuchus off because it's pretty chilly out there. We'll see how long I survive in only one layer. So if you got him smoking, because that's where I'm going. Come on, Doggo. Let's get you potted. Yeah. Come on, buddy. Come on, girl. Anyway. There you go, honey. All right. The giant cryptid you photographed was like, wow. Is he, she? One to avoid. Good towards humans. Those are the gentleman giant species. They're the Huichasa, and they're known to help people. They supposedly grow giant vegetables and plants underground, and our farmers. They wear woven cedar hats to keep the rain off of them because they live in caves. They're not used to water dripping on them. Um, and they are not people eaters. They've been known to help people. They're very passive. They're not aggressive either. So they're good people to be around. They're also very, very shy. You don't hardly ever get to see one. In all of the accounts that I have taken by people, in this valley over the years, I have the one picture, and I have an account from one individual who was rescued from drowning by one, pulled the individual out of the water. So I hear lots of counter stories about other cryptids in the area, but those guys, you hardly ever see them. And they can average 18, 22 feet, and somewhere in there. Yeah, I know. Bear men are not much of a conversationalists. They have to really know you in order to sit down and talk to you, and you have to be very patient and willing to sit very still around them. Oh yeah, I know, bad pup. I'm already aware not to go into the triangle. Up there in Alaska, there's some really, really bad cryptids up there. The triangle's got some of the most archaic species left on this planet that nobody knows anything about. Oh yeah, you're right. Alaskan moose are massive. Sorry, I was laughing at the conversation between Bad Pup and Phil there. Make the mood swell. Oh, my wife would get mad. Phil. I'm nuts. Okay. Karma is gorgeous. Oh, thank you, Neo. She's a sweetheart. Yeah, I can't afford $12 a pack. Well, actually, I think they're $18 a pack now for American Spirits here in this state. So I use these cigarettes for when I drive, but when I'm talking, I don't want to sit there and roll one. I used all natural tobacco that has no preservatives in it, and usually roll my own cigarettes. Because it's the same tobacco I give away to the cryptids when I go out there. I don't give them anything with chemicals in it. You ready to go back in? Okay. And yeah, everybody still has their Christmas lights on here. Alright, I'll go. Well, I did get the name Fights Anything from the Bigfoot in this area, because my dumbass decided to try to face down a crawler one night. That, and I made a mistake that earned it. But anyway, when I finally been taught the lesson of my errors, and I know what the call was that was making them think I would fight anything. So anyway, I'll have to get into that too. Yeah, cancer is pricey. Only if you aren't immune to it. My brother smoked for 60 years. Quit One day, no withdrawals, no sign after 3 months that he ever smoked in his life. Hopefully it'll be the same for me. No, I only smoke like 5 cigarettes a day. Good thing, Phil. It's better to have not ever started, actually. Yeah, they do have a challenge call. That's true. But it doesn't mean the same as a primate call. And some of the things that people think are primate calls out there are actually historic animals, not Bigfoot at all. So, part of my plan for putting up my maps, when I am dealing with historic animals, I will also be including some links to college materials that are available online. Some of it's work out of Harvard and other universities, but it is a replication of dinosaur sounds by the examination and 3D printing of their board areas that have been preserved, their larynxes, and their air chambers in their skulls. So all of the sounds in the links that I will be adding to, like the plesiosaur, the T-Rex video, map videos that I'm going to be doing, will have links to historically accurate calls that they could have made, because they've been made through the same devices using modern technology to replicate them. And that will help clarify that some of the Ron Moorhead sounds that are assumed to be primate language are actually Diplosaurus. They're a form of dinosaur call. You'll find out that about 1/3 of the calls in his repertoire of calls are actually not Bigfoot at all. They're historic animals. And once you hear the language sound clips reproduced by the universities off of their own sound equipment, as in the dinosaurs' replicated sound boxes, vocal cords, larynx, sound chamber, it will be very clear that they have a huge misconception of some of the things that are up there, and so do the primatologists that are involved, because they don't realize they're listening to historic animals and not primates. Diplodocus really had a lot of primate sounding calls. A lot of sounds like that actually are Diplodocus sounds, ancient dinosaur. So some of the stuff that's been identified up there by experts has been misidentified completely, including to the species type. That's how reliable science is without firsthand witnessing of the creature making the sound. If you don't know what the sound relates to, you're going to make assumptions based upon your own opinion. So that's going to become real evident once I start putting up some more of my maps and linking those kinds of language clips or sound clips to the particular video and the map associated with it. Enjoy. Please make sure you go listen to those sound clips and then go compare them. And in fact, I do have a playlist of archaic dinosaur sound clips in my playlists. That's why it's there. Uh, so you can compare them to some of the supposed Bigfoot calls that are actually not Bigfoot calls at all. But some of you have not been doing that. So I'm going to give you a new choice. If you want to learn, you're going to learn, and I will give you examples and show you the relevance of what those sounds are and why they're important to distinguish as not being Bigfoot. Phil, I was waking up to flat on my pillow. I thought a mountain bike rode until the bearings fell out. That's how I recovered from my chain smoking harm. Oh, damn. Oh my God, yes. I'm keen on those links. Okay, cool. Awesome. I'm glad to hear that, Neil, because we need to start examining the material that's out there with more trained ears and a more grounded mindset. In my opinion, I'm not trying to diss on anybody's opinion, but there are no creatures on the planet that have done some of the things that is claimed of Bigfoot. Uh, we're the only technological weirdos that want to jump through time and space and think that we can do it with some sort of computer program. Uh, but it's kind of inappropriate to put that sort of cross-link concept on a creature that doesn't even have technology that's at that level. I mean, they're working in stone, bone, and wood. Uh, they're still Neanderthals. They're still prehistoric man. Whatever is going on in their life is still archaic. Doesn't have anything to do with our modern concepts. And that's something we need to start thinking about. If we're really going to earnestly look into these things, we've got to understand what their ecology is. We have to be able to delineate their sounds from other things out there. And we have to be aware that there are other things out there that are definitely not Bigfoot. And hopefully I can help that come about more. The other hope I have is hope they'll be able to record at least one dinosaur in a video this year. Hopefully. It's a goal. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I'm trying for it. And I'm watching a particular area just in case. Because they've got some little funny sounds that they make. There are some behaviors that are curiosity behaviors that they do. Some little chortles and stuff that they do that I would love for you guys to hear. At least that little guy, he does that sort of thing. The one that's about knee height. Looks like a little salamander. He's got some really unique sounds. He's real cute sounding. Although you think he's still a meat eater, I wouldn't trust him with my leg, put it that way. Okay, yeah. Okay, Phil. They will not admit it, but maybe one day they will. Yeah, I doubt. We'd have to, our biological DNA science, our anthropological sciences would have to have a scientific collision, metaphorically, for that to actually occur. We'd have to get to a point either with human DNA where we can't go any further without discovering other cousin species, which we're already starting to do. We're starting to see ghost DNA that goes much further back in history than we suspected. We're also seeing ghost populations pop up in certain areas in our DNA that we're completely unaware of. And it's probably somewhere in that field as we advance in our DNA examination of our own genetics and what we find in the ground doing eDNA, ecological DNA on particular archaeological sites and maybe even some of the Bigfoot sites. Somewhere in there's going to be a collision of sciences. They both confirm each other, and because they confirm each other, at some point there's just going to be too much information to deny, is my guess. And I think we're getting kind of close to that in some regards now. But in another, say, 50 years, I'm sure that pressure to admit what's in the woods is going to get a lot heavier. That or they're going to have to start rewriting history books completely again in order to hide it. Okay. Oh, good, Neo. Yes, yes. Actually, there's a couple of playlists in there that are pretty good, but go ahead and find the one that's got the dino pictures up and find the sounds. Some of it is, I think I put them all in one playlist. If I remember right, I'm not sure which one it's in, but look through them, you'll find it. You'll open one and it'll have nothing but dinosaurs. Oh, and I'm down to 20% on my phone, so let me finish answering my questions, and then it looks like I should probably close down. Oh my goodness, it's been almost 3 hours. I was complaining. You're probably hungry, aren't you? Okay. Let's see. Ontario Sasquatch has a handmade marble that popped out of thin air. Have you seen? No, I haven't seen that. But ghosts can do that sort of thing. I lived in a haunted house once where stuff would drop out of the air to like 3, 4 feet off the ground for no apparent reason. No Bigfoot there, no nothing cryptid there. Just a haunted house. Well, being able to manifest, the ability to manifest solid matter it is advanced ability. It is and it isn't. If you meditate, and if you understand that matter is only solid because of its sound wave, so to speak, then matter is not matter. And if you can match the sound wave, you can step through matter. I think that's more into the point of what is occurring. Now, maybe some Bigfoot have figured that out. If we can figure it out, they can figure it out. Because some holy men around the world have been reported as having some very unique talents when it comes to time, matter, and whether or not the world is solid around them. I think it's a lot of being able to control your own intellect and concentrate on something long enough to achieve it. I think that's a lot of what we think are miraculous things. I think it's just part of what we can naturally do, and we just don't know how to access that. And I think it just is going to take practice and understanding of our own being in order to get to a level where we can do that sort of thing. You know, like a muscle, your brain advances as you practice with it. Why would your energy be any different? If you can build muscle mass, you can build brain mass, you can build an energy awareness. That's very true, Beth. There are people in this world that don't want to accept things that they're unfamiliar. It's dangerous to their mindset, makes them feel uncomfortable and not at ease because it challenges their perception of reality. Yeah, I hope to get some dino vocalizations. There are a couple of spots where I might be able to catch a T-Rex doing his thing too. There are two areas I know of in this state within a couple of hours drive in either direction. If I take some time, one's out the coast, one's up in the mountains. Neither one are very good places to do recordings, but if I sit there long enough, I'm sure I'll be able to get a sound bite from those guys. Because they're pretty regular with their sound offs. Yeah, there's a lot of cognitive dissonance in our culture on so many levels. You're complaining. I know. I know. Okay, I'll feed you. She hasn't been the same since I bought a pound of of jerky. Okay. I saw three squash back in the woods. Back into the woods vanish. They're my... Do my second account. Actually, that's not uncommon. Uh, you can step 3 feet back into the brush line and disappear. They know to sit down, turn around, and crawl away. So they might look like they're disappearing in front of you. They're likely using adaptive camouflage in the surrounding area to, just fade away like any good warrior would in any kind of military circumstance. Oh, thank you, Michigan Cryptid. Appreciate your subscription. Welcome. Please go check out all of my videos. I have almost 1,000 of them up now. Not all of them have information or titles or descriptions to them yet. So, not enough time. But there's plenty of information up. So I had a memory return after 50 years, a juvenile in a plum tree staring directly at me. My mom could not see. I was 4 or 5 years old. That's a good one to come back. And I had the Ryogen, the very first Ryogen that I ever ran across. Uh, that stayed as a repressed memory, even though I tried to hang on to that memory, because I knew the thing scared me so bad I knew I would lose the memory. I was like 8 or... Yeah, I think I was 8 when that happened. And it didn't take until seeing its front track again before I freaked the heck out and could remember it. And then, oh my god, the panic, that memory of seeing it look up at me from inside its structure, because I tried to walk up on it. I was being too curious. And it mooed at me, and the sound didn't match what I was looking at. And what I was looking at I couldn't make sense of, because it had a hairy body and, crab-like claws in the front, but looked like a monkey, but had a crab-like head, and it looked so fucking weird. Pardon my French, but just the size, the weirdness of it scared me to death as a kid. And then, quickly putting it together that what I was walking on the ground, which I thought was a Bigfoot track, because their back foot looks very similar to a Bigfoot track, except it's got it looks like its pinky toe and the toe next to it are fused together, and they sit lower down in a peculiar position on their foot. So if you're looking at it, they look like a long, narrow Bigfoot track, except they've got 2 little toes. Yeah, they still have 5 toes, but they got 2 toes that sit inappropriately along the outside edge of the foot. That is not a Bigfoot track. That is a Ryogen track. The front track is something that's going to be very hard for you to understand and distinguish, because it looks like a leaf pattern in the ground. It's the shell structure of the joint in their crab-like front hand. So their back track looks very primate-like. Their front track looks like a crab putting his elbow on the ground. It's got this funny kind of floral pattern to the print. So you won't even recognize that as a footprint. But they have really long front arms, and they walk with short legs in the back, kind of in an A-frame shape as they move. I don't know how those things came about. I don't know what era they even come from historically, but they got to be something really ancient. Okay. Marathon stream. Yep, we just hit 3 hours. You're welcome, Neo, no problem. Alright, guys. My dog was complaining so much of me, I better pay some attention to her. And I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I hope it's been informative. And I'm going to start producing more of these sorts of things with the map. And we're going to get into more details. We're going to get into more cultural details. So hopefully I can paint even a better picture of what some of these things are like. And hopefully that will help everyone overall, especially when out in the field. You know, if you run across certain kinds of ground spore that might belong to something bigger, and know you're in far more danger than you realize. And it's not not a Bigfoot you're after. It'd be some other ancient thing. All right, guys. I really appreciate you, and I'm so grateful that you are all my subscribers. You guys are great. You've been awesome. I love the questions that you ask. They help me remember things. Excuse me. Because I had to memorize a lot of stuff, and sometimes if I don't get the right question, I can't remember the answer because there's so much information in here. So you help me when you ask questions, and I appreciate that because then it allows me to give you more details, allows me to remember, and hopefully paint an overall better picture. Anyway, thank you guys. I really appreciate you all. You've been great. I'm going to give you a picture of this little Muttley here. Yeah. Uh-huh, baby. Uh-huh, uh-huh. Okay. You say bye-bye too, huh? Yep. Okay. Now, you guys have a great evening, and thank you, everybody, for being here today. I'll see you next Saturday, and hopefully you'll have a lot more information to play with here real soon. Can you discuss what they smell like at some point? Oh, yeah, I can do that for you. Not a problem. Because some of these things don't have much of a scent, and some of them stink depending on what they are or what's going on with their health. Anyway, take care, everyone. Have a great one. Laters.